Good morning, and welcome not to just the King's Castle, but we're in the King's Quarters. This is Arnold Palmer's office here at the Bay Hill Club and Lodge. This is where he would spend basically from mid-October till the 1st of May. Coming in the office almost every day he was in town. The desk is essentially left just as it was going back to September. They have moved a few things, his glasses and his hearing aids, to make room for a piece of paper that is being signed here by the players this week. You can tell at the top of the list, Sam Saunders, an autograph that is very readable, which is what Mr. Palmer believed in, an autograph that you could read. No hats, obviously, in here. You'd taken those off. Wasn't a big fan of facial hair, but spent a lot of time right here signing for hours at a time sometimes, making sure that everybody who sent something in got something back. One nice little thing here, a piece of paper recommending to the players who sign here to post certain social media, picture of themselves in the chair that Arnold Palmer sat in at his desk. And on the cover of the piece of paper they receive is one of his famous quotes: "You must play boldly to win." Morning Drive starts right now.
Well, just one day remains until a field that includes 21 major champions tee off in the 39th edition of the Arnold Palmer Invitational here at Bay Hill Club and Lodge. And we are delighted to call Arnie's Place our home for the week as we invite you to start your day with us on this Wednesday, March 15th. Kyra Robinson alongside Damon Hack and a pair of PGA Tour winners who both call Orlando home, Robert Dameron and Chris DeMarco. Robert, you're not very far from... You can walk home, I suppose, here.
I'm not going to, but I could.
Tempted in these cold temperatures. But you know this golf club as well as anyone. Today, Sam Saunders will officially open this event when he hits a ceremonial tee shot in the place of his late grandfather, who passed less than 6 months ago. How do you expect him to handle his personal emotions this week while also preparing to compete in a PGA Tour event?
Well, I'm sure he's been through every emotion imaginable so far at this point, and I know that he's been sad to be here. He's been happy and excited to try to fill his grandfather's shoes this week, just the slightest amount. Obviously, those shoes can't be filled. There is a point, though, today at some point when he has to say, you know what, I'm a competitor in the field, and I need to focus on playing, and I need to get rid of this. But one thing I'm sure of is he's turned into a man that his grandfather will be very, very proud of.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think everyone does after seeing what he did at the memorial service last year. Chris, it's a good point, though. At some point, he needs to get into competitive mode. He's playing alongside Rory McIlroy and Brandt Snedeker Thursday, Friday. This is going to be a big week for him in so many ways.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, with his grandpa, this is his place. And, you know, he's played here a lot. He loves this golf course. And he's going to play, you know, he needs to play his own game. And you're right. I mean, so many people are going to be following him, wanting him to play well because of his grandpa. And at some point, he's got to go, okay, let's go out and just play golf. Let's go do what I know how to do, which is be a professional golfer.
Looking forward to asking him himself in the second hour. Sam Saunders will join us. And if his performance in the eulogy during the memorial service is any indication of how Sam Saunders will perform this week, I think he's going to handle it with grace and be just fine. Speaking of grace, our Lauren Thompson is on the driving range right now. Let's say good morning to her. LT, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Damon. Honestly, it's a little bit chilly. I'm born and raised here in the Orlando area. It's cold out here for Pro-Am Day as the players are warming up on the range, but we've got a great show coming your way. Glad our viewers are tuning in. And we alluded to this moments ago, a lot of guests joining us live, but only one with golf royalty running through his veins. Sam Saunders ahead of his 8th start at the Arnold Palmer Invitational presented by MasterCard. He's going to open up on being the grandson of the king, Mr. Palmer himself, and what this week means to their family and friends in the field. But what about the business side of the World Golf Hall of Famer? Arnold Palmer left a legacy not just with what he did inside the ropes, but his branding, and that, despite his passing, continues to grow globally. Our business insider Matt Adams is going to show you how with the numbers that back it up. Then we're going to zero in on this week's layout, and the course in play boasts 18 unique challenges, but our travel insider crowns just one as the hole of the week. He's going to bring that to you later, and the keys that went into the decision for Matt Ginella. But for now, we get you back to Cara Robinson to talk about how the players are paying tribute to AP.
All right, LT, well, none more so than a guy who finished third in this event in 2013. Ricky Fowler has always had a close relationship with the King. He's changed his Instagram profile picture, in fact, to a photo of Arnold Palmer at the Masters last year. And yesterday he tweeted this: "Legends never die. Honored to be here this week at the API Invitational to celebrate a life well played. Thumbs up to the King." Sporting Arnie's iconic umbrella logo on his hat, and in today's program he will be wearing a custom pair of high tops with images of Arnold and his famous signature across the strap. Justin Rose has been a runner-up in this event, and yesterday he chose to throw it back to the 2015 Open when he got to spend a special few moments with the King during a practice round. He too, a proud member of Arnie's army. And then Rory McIlroy revealed this letter that he received from Arnold after winning his first major championship at the 2011 US Open. After congratulating him on the win, the framed note went on to say, "You are now in a position where you have the opportunity to give back to the game that is making you famous, and I hope that you will live up to that obligation." Great words of wisdom, Damon.
And Rory McIlroy tees off tomorrow at 1:08 p.m. alongside the 2012 FedEx Cup champion Brandt Snedeker and the aforementioned Sam Saunders, Arnold Palmer's grandson. This is definitely one of the key groups you will see this week at Bay Hill. Rory McIlroy right now preparing for a 7:20 a.m. Pro-Am tee time, and to tell you what, he's coming off a T7 finish at the WGC Mexico Championship. As we take you inside the ropes, he was the 36-hole leader in that event. The four-time major champion is making his third API start. His best finish, tied for 11th back in 2015. And when you look at the roster of champions here, Chris DeMarco, the Tiger Woods is who won 8 times, Jason Day, Kenny Perry, Martin Laird, Phil Mickelson, Ernie Els, Vijay Singh. A lot of big hitters have won here. How does this golf course set up for Rory?
Well, I mean, obviously this is only a third start, so he's got to learn how to play this golf course. You really can't overpower. You can hit driver everywhere, but there's a lot of trouble out there. So you really have to be disciplined and put the ball in the fairway. This week the rough is especially high here. So I think that if you can put the ball in play, he doesn't necessarily need to hit driver everywhere. He can hit 3-woods, plenty far enough, even irons off some of the tees. Put the ball in the fairway, get the ball on the green. The greens will be are rolling about the best that they've rolled in a really long time, so they're going to be able to make some putts. Just put the ball in the fairway. That's the key this week.
Of course, he just returned from injury at the WGC Mexico Championship. Robert, good showing, finishing in the top 10, but he did hold the lead going into the weekend. Ended up being a little bit of a disappointing win for him in some ways. How do you expect to see him perform this week?
I think better. I think it's just a process. I know a process 1 coming off the rib injury, but a process 2 trying to peak at the Masters, in 3 weeks. He's not trying to, of course he's going to try to do his best, but he would love to have his best, absolute best stuff saved up for Augusta.
Well, it's interesting, guys. In an interview with The Guardian, he didn't shy away from the fact that Augusta is on his mind. It's the most important tournament to complete the career Grand Slam. Do you like the fact that he's voicing it? He's not shying away from what would be a momentous occasion in his career should he win.
Well, how could he possibly shy away from it? That's all everybody talks about. The fact that a couple of years ago he had a 4-shot lead and entered the back 9. So that course obviously sets up great for him. Just a matter of him putting it all together. And, again, that's what the great players try to peak for the majors, and that's exactly what Rory's trying to do.
As we see his last 7 worldwide starts, he's been very honest about watching Jordan Spieth win and Dustin Johnson win and how it's bothered him. He does not want to be left behind in this game. He was a former world #1, wants to get back there now, of course, currently the world #3.
Yeah, and it's interesting looking at that runner-up performance in the South African Open as well. Any win is a win. It doesn't matter what tournament you're on, what part of the world you're on. He was quite devastated to come so close and not get a W early in the year. It will be interesting to see how he does perform this week. Conditions here are incredibly cold this morning. He's going to have needed to go through a good warm-up before he tees off at 7:20 a.m. Eastern here in the Pro-Am. Well, Rory hails from Great Britain, specifically Northern Ireland, but if you take a look at the number of English golfers in the field at this year's Masters, it's an impressive list that includes reigning champion Danny Willett, veterans Lee Westwood, Justin Rose and Paul Casey, Matt Fitzpatrick, who finished tied 7th there last year, and Tyrrell Hatton, who is due to make his Masters debut. 5 players on that list are also in the field this week at Bay Hill. And so for more, let's welcome in our European insider who's on site this week. Anna Whiteley is out on the driving range. Good morning, Anna.
Morning, Cara.
Hope you're surviving these fairly brisk conditions. Listen, looking at that list of Masters invitations this year, what do you put the current strength of English golf down to right now?
As you say, English golf has never been in a better place. We should have 10 Englishmen teeing it up at the Masters this year, more than we've ever had before. So you kind of have to ask yourself the question, where is all this fresh English talent coming from? Well, first of all, we have to congratulate the work of the English Golf Union. It's the amateur body that have nurtured talent over the years, such as Justin Rose, Lee Westwood, Luke Donald, just to name a few. And they give these guys the opportunity to play all over the world. So by the time they turn professional, they've had such a brilliant experience, and as a result these guys tend to turn pro a lot younger than perhaps the American players who go through the collegiate system. So they're achieving a lot more a lot younger. I was talking to Pete Cowan on the range yesterday, and he was saying he was actually the former lead coach of English Golf Union. So there's this really strong natural progression coming from them and going into the safe arms of Pete Cowan, and we all know what happens when you can do that. It's exactly what Danny Willett did, and look, it's got himself a green jacket. And one other thing to mention is that there's a real strong camaraderie between these English guys. They look at what each other are doing and they say, well, if you can do that, I can do one better. So there's a really healthy competition. If Danny Willett can win the Masters, then I'm going to go and go one better. So I think that's a huge part of what's playing this momentum of this new English wave of talent.
Well, one former student of Pete Cowan's is now the world number 35, Tommy Fleetwood. He's not on that list yet, but he is on pace to earn his first Masters invitation. Now, the American fans are just getting to know Tommy, not just for his long hair, but for his win in Abu Dhabi and, of course, runner-up finish to Dustin Johnson in Mexico. Have his plans now changed for the season ahead?
Well, this, as you say, this is really a new chapter for Tommy Fleetwood. For the first time, he said he's got the freedom to choose where he wants to play. Now, I was talking to his manager, his fiancée, Claire, yesterday, and he said that, or she said that they've been having really lengthy discussions as to where his focus should lie for this year. Should he focus on the European Tour and start ranking up those Ryder Cup points, because I know that's a huge goal for him for next year, or should he focus on the PGA Tour and start being recognised as an internationally talented player? All this is very new for him, though. These doors only opened for him after the WGC a few weeks ago, so he said yesterday he hasn't really had the chance to look at his schedule yet and decide what he wants to do, but I know he's pretty much into the Masters. It'll be confirmed next week, but that'll be his Masters debut. He's watched from the sidelines, but my goodness, are they excited to get out there. The majors are all an option for him now. They weren't this time 3 months ago, so a whole world has opened up for him. Decisions need to be made, but what a position he's put himself in, and things are looking very bright for Tommy Fleetwood.
Good problem to have, hey? He does currently lead the race to Dubai on the European Tour as well. Anna, thank you. It's great to have you with us today, and we'll talk to you again in an hour.
Thanks, Cara. Cheers.
All right, well, yesterday, the annual Arnie's March Against Children's Cancer was held right here at Bay Hill. The event raises money for research and clinical trials at the Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children. And great news, this year's goal of $250,000 was reached, and then some. Donations are in excess of $280,000.
Even today, we follow in his footsteps. It isn't what he did, it's how he did it that made all the difference. It echoes through the generations. He was the first one of them who was one of us. From the dawn of the television era, young Arnold Palmer leapt from the screen, marched into our living rooms, and brought us all along for the ride. That was just the thing about Arnie. How a shot could break his heart. How a tournament could make his year. It set the example for what was to come. The original man against the field. The hero. The heartthrob. The gambler. The king. Unmistakable by his swing, his stance, his stride. For some, many of these things may be true, but only for one are they all true.